When a woman begins to drop her emotional guard before anything else, that's not random and it's not accidental. It's deeply psychological. Attraction doesn't start in the body, it starts in perception. Long before desire becomes visible, it becomes felt. And the first place it shows up is in how safe she feels, revealing who she really is around you. Most men misunderstand this phase because they're looking for obvious signs: touch, flirtation, verbal interest. But women don't operate that way when the attraction is real and meaningful. Emotional openness is risk. When she starts talking about her fears, her past disappointments, the parts of herself she doesn't show the world, she's not just talking, she's testing. She's asking, without saying it out loud, can you hold this without judging me? Can you remain grounded when I expose something fragile? Psychologically, this is significant because vulnerability is currency. A woman does not spend it casually. She offers it only where she senses strength, stability, and emotional safety. This is why she may open up to you in ways that seem disproportionate to how long you've known her. It's not about time, it's about presence. The moment she feels seen rather than evaluated, heard rather than managed, something inside her relaxes. And here's the part most men get wrong. They think emotional openness means she wants advice, fixing, or reassurance. No. What she's watching is how you respond. Do you rush to solve? Do you get uncomfortable? Do you try to impress her with insight? Or do you stay calm, grounded, attentive, allowing her to exist as she is without trying to control the moment? A man who can sit with emotional weight without flinching signals something powerful: internal stability. From a psychological standpoint, that stability translates into trust, and trust is the gateway to deeper connection. When she feels emotionally safe, her nervous system shifts. Guarded energy softens, defensive behavior dissolves. This is not conscious, it's biological. You'll notice it in small things. She lingers longer in conversation. Her voice softens. She shares stories that don't make her look perfect. She asks questions that go beyond surface-level curiosity. These are not signs of friendship. They are signs of emotional investment. She's allowing you access to her inner world, and access always precedes surrender, philosophically speaking. Intimacy is not about taking, it's about being allowed in. And being allowed in is earned through restraint, not pursuit. When you don't rush her openness, when you don't exploit it, when you don't mistake vulnerability for an invitation to escalate prematurely, you demonstrate something rare: self-mastery. That's what deepens her attraction. This is why emotional leadership matters more than emotional intensity. You don't need to mirror her vulnerability or overshare to match her. In fact, doing so often weakens the dynamic. Your role is to remain centered, to listen fully, to acknowledge without drowning in the emotion. That contrast, her openness paired with your composure, creates polarity, and polarity is what keeps desire alive. Over time, if handled correctly, her emotional exposure becomes a bridge. Once she trusts you with her inner world, the physical world naturally follows. Not because you pushed, but because she chose. Desire grows strongest where a woman feels free, not pressured, understood, not pursued. So if you're paying attention, this stage is not confusing at all. It's clear. Emotional openness is not just talking. It's an invitation to demonstrate who you are under pressure. And the man who understands this doesn't rush the moment. He honors it. Because when a woman feels safe enough to be emotionally exposed with you, she's already closer than you think. After emotional openness comes something far more subtle, yet far more revealing. The way she begins totist proximity, not overtly, not in ways that are obvious to an untrained eye, but in quiet, almost accidental moments that are anything but accidental. At this stage, a woman isn't trying to seduce you, she's calibrating you. She's observing how you handle closeness without explicit permission. Psychology tells us that attraction deepens not through bold moves, but through attunement. And physical attunement begins long before touch. It begins with space. You'll notice she starts sitting closer than necessary, standing just inside what would normally be considered personal distance. She may brush past you instead of walking around. Let her hand linger a second longer when passing something to you. These are not mistakes. These are micro-invitations. Each one is a question disguised as coincidence. Are you aware? Are you calm? Are you grounded enough not to rush this? Most men fail here because they misinterpret proximity as a green light to escalate immediately. They lean in too fast. They touch too much. Or worse, they freeze entirely, unsure of what to do. Both responses signal the same thing: lack of self-control. And self-control is essential to desire. From a psychological perspective, a woman is most drawn to a man who can feel the tension and hold it. Tension is not something to eliminate, it's something to sustain. When she moves closer and you don't immediately act on it, you communicate confidence without words. You're saying, "I'm comfortable here. I don't need to take anything. I know this moment will unfold naturally." This restraint does something powerful to her nervous system. It creates safety while amplifying curiosity. She begins to wonder why you're not chasing, not grabbing, not rushing. That curiosity deepens attraction far more than any rehearsed move ever could. You'll also notice changes in eye contact. It becomes slower, more deliberate, less scattered. When proximity increases, eye contact becomes a silent dialogue. She may hold your gaze a second longer than normal, then look away, then come back. This push and pull is not indecision. It's emotional arousal regulated through control. She's pacing herself, and she's watching whether you can pace yourself too. Philosophically, this is about respect for the moment. Desire grows in spaces where autonomy is preserved. When you don't invade her space, when you allow her to enter yours, you reverse the traditional chase dynamic. She becomes the one stepping forward, and that shift is profound. There's also an element of trust here. Physical proximity requires vulnerability. It exposes her to potential rejection, shredding, or embarrassment. So when she moves closer, she's already invested. The question is whether you'll respond from awareness or from impulse. The strongest response is presence. Stay relaxed, stay open. Let your body language remain calm and grounded. No sudden movements, no nervous energy, just stillness with intent. This communicates emotional maturity, a trait that registers as deeply attractive on a subconscious level. Over time, these moments stack. Each one builds a silent narrative. I feel safe here. I feel seen. I feel free. And freedom is the soil where desire grows best, not pressure, not persuasion. Freedom. This is why men who understand proximity don't rely on techniques. They rely on timing. They don't force touch. They allow it to happen. And when it finally does, it feels natural, inevitable, and mutual. So pay attention to the space between you. Because when a woman begins to close that space on her own, she's already telling you something important. The only question left is whether you're calm enough, aware enough, and confident enough to listen. And the man who can remain centered in that quiet tension doesn't need to chase intimacy. Intimacy finds him. Once proximity becomes comfortable, something deeper begins to reveal itself, not through her body, but through her attention. This is where most men completely misread the situation, because they assume attraction is loud. In reality, genuine desire often expresses itself through focus. Quiet. Selective, intentional focus. At this stage, you'll notice she starts remembering small details about you. Things you said weeks ago. A passing comment about your childhood, your goals, your frustrations. Psychologically, memory is not neutral. We remember what carries emotional weight. When a woman remembers you with clarity, it means you're occupying space in her inner world, even when you're not physically present. This is crucial, because desire doesn't live in the moment. It lives in anticipation and recollection. If she's recalling you, replaying conversations, bringing up things you barely remember saying, it means you've become part of her internal narrative. And once a man enters that narrative, he's no longer just an option, he's a presence. You may also notice that she starts giving you undivided attention in environments where distraction is easy. Her phone stays untouched when you speak. She listens fully, not just to respond, but to understand. She asks follow-up questions that go beneath the surface. This isn't politeness, this is investment. From a psychological standpoint, attention is a limited resource. We spend it where we feel emotional resonance. When she chooses to give you hers consistently, she's revealing attachment in its early form, not attachment that seeks control, but attachment that seeks connection. There's also a subtle shift in how she shares herself. Her stories become more personal. She begins revealing contradictions, insecurities, unresolved thoughts. This is not accidental vulnerability. This is selective vulnerability. She's not opening up to everyone, she's opening up to you, and that distinction matters. Philosophically, this is where intimacy truly begins, not with touch, but with trust. Trust that you won't judge. Trust that you won't weaponize her openness. Trust that you can hold complexity without trying to fix it. When a woman shares her inner conflicts with a man, she's testing his emotional capacity. Can he stay present without needing to dominate the moment? Many men fail this test by offering solutions too quickly. They try to lead when they should listen. They try to impress when they should understand. But attraction deepens when a woman feels emotionally witnessed, not emotionally managed. You'll also sense a change in timing. She finds reasons to extend conversations. She lingers after the interaction should logically end. These moments are pauses filled with unspoken intention. She's not in a rush to leave your presence, because your presence has become regulating to her nervous system. And here's the most overlooked part. She starts adjusting herself around you. Her tone softens. Her pace matches yours. This is called emotional mirroring, and it's a powerful indicator of subconscious alignment. Humans mirror those they feel safe with, those they're drawn to, those they want to sync with. This doesn't happen through effort. It happens through resonance, and resonance can't be forked. It can only be felt. The key for you is restraint. Don't exploit her attention. Don't rush to label it. Don't demand clarity before it naturally forms. Let the connection breathe. Because when a woman gives you her focus, her memory, and her emotional openness, she's already moving towards you internally. And once a woman moves towards you internally, the external world eventually follows. So pay attention not to what she says she feels, but to where she places her attention. Because attention reveals desire long before words ever dare to. And the man who understands this doesn't chase validation. He becomes the space where it naturally settles. At this stage, her behavior begins to shift from passive interest to active investment. This is where many men get confused, because the signals become more subtle, yet more consequential. She's no longer just responding to you, she's adjusting herself for you, and that adjustment is one of the clearest hidden signs of deep desire. You'll notice she starts making small sacrifices without announcing them. She rearranges her schedule to see you. She chooses your presence over other options. She becomes flexible in ways she isn't with most people. Psychologically, sacrifice is one of the strongest indicators of attachment. We don't give up comfort, time, or convenience for things we don't value. When a woman begins to invest effort quietly, she's revealing that you've crossed from interest into priority. But here's where it gets deeper. Alongside that investment, she may begin to test you, emotionally, subtly, sometimes unconsciously. She might challenge your opinions. She might pull back briefly after moments of closeness. She might say something provocative and watch how you respond. This isn't manipulation in the way most men think of it. This is evaluation. From a psychological standpoint, when a woman feels herself becoming emotionally vulnerable, her mind seeks reassurance of safety. She's asking questions without words. Are you stable? Are you reactive? Do you lose control when things feel uncertain? Can you hold your ground without aggression? These tests are not meant to push you away. They're meant to see if you're strong enough to move closer. Men who misunderstand this either become defensive or overly accommodating. Both responses weaken attraction. What she's looking for is calm presence, a man who doesn't flinch when challenged, a man who doesn't chase when she pauses, a man who doesn't need constant reassurance to feel grounded. You may also notice moments where she creates emotional contrast, warmth followed by distance. This isn't cruelty, it's her nervous system negotiating desire. Intimacy is risky. To give herself fully, she needs to know that you won't collapse emotionally if she steps back for air. Paradoxically, the man who allows space without withdrawing emotionally becomes the safest man to move toward. There's also a philosophical layer here. Desire deepens where free dom exists. If she feels trapped, pressured, or rushed, her instinct will be to protect herself. But if she feels chosen rather than chased, she relaxes into the connection. She begins to offer more because she feels in control of her own giving. This is why you'll sometimes notice her doing things for you that seem unnecessary, supporting your goals, encouraging your discipline, taking pride in your growth. These are not casual behaviors. She's aligning herself with your direction. And alignment is intimacy in its most mature form. Another subtle sign appears in how she reacts to other women around you. Not overt jealousy, but awareness, a shift in energy, a change in attentiveness. This isn't insecurity, it's emotional claiming. She hasn't said anything, but internally she's already placed you in a category that matters. The mistake men make here is trying to accelerate what's already unfolding. They push for certainty, labels, or physical escalation too soon. But when a woman is testing and investing simultaneously, the most powerful move is consistency without pressure. Let her see that your presence doesn't change based on her fluctuations. Because the truth is this: when a woman begins to invest effort, test your stability, and adjust her life around your presence, she's not debating attraction anymore. She's negotiating surrender. Not surrender to you, but surrender to her own feelings. And the man who understands this doesn't try to win her faster. He simply remains steady long enough for her to feel safe choosing him fully. So ask yourself this: not how much attention she gives you, but how much she adapts for you. Because adaptation is the language of commitment before commitment is spoken, and the man who respects that process doesn't force intimacy. He becomes worthy of it. By the time you reach this stage, something fundamental has shifted inside her. This is no longer about flirting, curiosity, or surface-level attraction. This is where emotional permission begins. And emotional permission always comes before physical or relational surrender. You'll notice that she starts revealing parts of herself she doesn't show easily. Not dramatic confessions, but quiet truths. Small stories from her past, insecurities framed casually, opinions she usually keeps guarded. This isn't accidental. Psychologically, vulnerability is selective. People only open emotional doors when they sense the person in front of them can hold what's inside without exploiting it. This is where many men misread the moment. They hear vulnerability and rush to fix, reassure, or rescue. But that's not what she's asking for. What she's doing is measuring your emotional intelligence. Can you listen without controlling? Can you stay present without turning her openness into leverage? Can you witness her without making it about yourself? From a psychological perspective, a woman who wants to give herself to a man needs to feel emotionally seen, not emotionally managed. When she speaks about her fears, her disappointments, or her confusion, she's watching closely. Not for your solutions, but for your composure, your restraint, your capacity to stay grounded while she reveals something fragile. You may also notice that she starts asking deeper questions about you, not out of curiosity, but out of alignment. She wants to understand how you think, how you handle pressure, what you believe about life, loyalty, purpose. These questions are not interviews, they are checkpoints. She's subconsciously asking, is this someone I can trust my softer self with? At this stage, she may begin to share moments of silence with you. Comfortable silence, no performance, no constant conversation. Silence is intimacy's testing ground. If she can be quiet around you without feeling awkward or anxious, it means her nervous system feels safe. And safety is the foundation of desire that lasts. Another sign appears in how she reacts when you don't chase. If you give her space and she fills it, not with drama, but with presence, that's powerful. She initiates conversation, she checks in, she remembers details you mentioned weeks ago. Memory is emotional investment. We don't remember what doesn't matter to us. You might also notice subtle, future-oriented language. Not big plans, not promises, just small references. You'd like this place. This reminds me of you. One day you should see this. These aren't fantasies, they're emotional projections. She's placing you into her internal map of the future, and people don't do that lightly. Philosophically, this is where desire becomes intentional. She's no longer reacting to attraction, she's choosing it. And choice is heavier than chemistry. Chemistry happens to us. Choice comes from clarity. But here's the critical truth. The more she opens emotionally, the more sensitive the dynamic becomes. This is where pressure can quietly kill everything. If she feels rushed, evaluated, or claimed before she's ready, her instincts will retreat. Not because she doesn't want you, but because she needs to protect the part of herself she's begun to reveal. The strongest response at this stage is emotional leadership. You don't interrogate her feelings. You don't demand clarity. You don't escalate to secure yourself. You stay consistent, calm, self-directed. You allow her vulnerability to exist without trying to possess it. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe and emotionally free, something profound happens. She stops guarding, she stops testing, she stops negotiating internally. She doesn't give herself because she's convinced. She gives herself because she's ready. So reflect on this. When she opens emotionally, do you rush to define the connection, or do you become someone she can relax into? Because the man who understands this doesn't pull her closer. He becomes the place she moves toward on her own. At this final saint, age, what you're witnessing is not attraction anymore. It's decision. And decision is always quieter than desire. When a woman wants to give herself to you fully and consciously, her behavior doesn't become louder. It becomes calmer, more grounded, more intentional. This is where most men get confused, because they're looking for intensity when they should be looking for certainty. You'll notice that the emotional turbulence fades. The mixed signals slow down. The push-pull dynamic loses its edge. She's no longer testing your reactions or provoking jealousy. Why? Because testing is a strategy used when someone is unsure. Once she knows how she feels, the tests end. Peace replaces drama. Psychologically, this is the moment her nervous system stops oscillating between fear and desire. She's no longer asking, does he want me? Or is this safe? Instead, the question becomes internal and deeply personal. Am I ready to choose? And when a woman reaches that question, she's already far ahead emotionally. You may notice she becomes more cooperative without becoming submissive. She meets you halfway, plans flow more easily, communication becomes clearer, not because she's trying harder, but because resistance is gone. Resistance only exists when there's internal conflict. Once the conflict resolves, alignment follows. Another subtle but powerful sign is how she responds to your leadership, not dominance. Leadership. She respects your boundaries. She doesn't challenge your DI. Direction. Just to test control. She may even defer in small, natural ways. This isn't weakness. This is trust. Trust that you know who you are and where you're going. At this stage, she also starts protecting the connection. She avoids situations that could complicate things. She distances herself from distractions. She becomes more selective with her energy. This is crucial to understand. People protect what they value. If she's protecting you, you're no longer just an option. You're an investment. Philosophically, this is where desire aligns with values. She's no longer acting on impulse or emotion alone. She's integrating you into her sense of identity. And identity is sacred. We don't merge someone into our identity unless we believe they belong there. Here's the paradox most men miss. The closer she gets to fully giving herself, the less she needs reassurance. She doesn't need constant validation because her certainty comes from within. If you mistake this calm confidence for loss of interest and start chasing reassurance, you disrupt the very safety that allowed her to arrive here. This is where patience becomes power. Your role now is not to escalate, not to define, not to secure. Your role is to remain solid. Consistency here is more seductive than charm. Presence is more powerful than persuasion. When you stay emotionally centered, self-directed, and unpressured, you communicate something rare. I don't need to take. You're free to choose. And freedom is the final gateway, because no one truly gives themselves under pressure. They give themselves when they feel safe and sovereign. If you rush this moment, you trigger her defenses. If you hold it calmly, you invite her forward. This is the stage where masculine restraint creates feminine surrender, not because you demanded it, but because you made it feel right. So the real question isn't whether she wants to give herself to you. The question is whether you're grounded enough to receive it. Because when a woman chooses you freely, without fear or force, she doesn't come halfway. She comes completely. And the man who understands this doesn't chase the outcome. He becomes the man the outcome naturally moves toward.